Streaming live from the Upper Room Presents media platform, welcome to What's on My Mind with Victoria Robinson. And now your host, Victoria Robinson.
Hey, you guys. Woo! I did it. And Marisa couldn't be here, so I did it all by myself. So welcome to What's on My Mind with Victoria Robinson. I'm your host. Thanks for joining me again this week. And listen, I'm human, okay? So I don't know what I'm doing exactly. Here's what I know how to do. I can talk, and I love interesting people, and I love talking about interesting things. So that part is the easy part. This technology stuff, not so much. But so far, so good, I think. Hopefully this is recording. Hopefully you can hear me. It would be great if you tell me that in the comments. Oh, good. Yes. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Ian, for letting me know you can hear me. Anyways, I've got a great guest today, and that's what's on my mind this week is hearing stories that are impactful, that have impacted my life, people that I really respect and that I genuinely like. I won't be bringing people on here I don't like, I don't think, but I could. So I shouldn't say that because I don't like everybody. But there are very interesting people that have interesting stuff to talk about that I may not always agree with. I have some great guests coming up in the future too. I've got a guy coming on that's going to talk about this, all of these kids being bombarded with sex changes, sex operations, and drugs. He's going to be coming on the show in the next few weeks. I'll let you know. My granddaughter, Salem, who is 12, and my niece, both are going to be on the show very soon. I'll let you know about that. And I want to hear from them as far as how they're dealing with being preteens and living in this world of COVID and what they've been through the last couple of years. So there's just different things that I want to talk about that I think interest me, that I hope interest you. And my sister's going to be coming back. We already have a topic on parenting, and it's going to be what would we change if we could go back, and kind of like one of those things of what would you say to your younger self if you were single again, or what would you say to yourself as a parent? We're going to be talking about those things too. So lots of interesting stuff coming up. But tonight, I'm so excited to bring on a guest. His name is Steventhen Holland. He is the founder of Broken Not Dead Ministries. And I am excited for you to hear his story, hear his heart. I met him several years ago when we were speaking at another event that both of us, I believe, were speaking at the same time. And he's become a dear friend, and he's got a powerful message for you, a powerful ministry. And I want to introduce him to you. This is Steventhen Holland. Hey, Steventhen.
Hello. Hey, Vic. How are you?
I did it. You're there.
You're amazing.
I can see you. I am getting good at I'm going to listen. I might start going to work for somebody. This could be my next new job behind the camera.
Let's add something else to your plate, right?
Yeah, true that. Well, thank you so much for being here and being willing to come on and share. You know, I've told you how I feel about you and the work that you're doing. And I want people to know who you are. I want people to get to know you. So, Steventhen, tell us a little bit about who Steventhen Holland is.
Well, most importantly, I'm a man of God. I love the Lord. He's first in my life always. And then after that, I'm a husband of 15 years. I've been married to my wife, Rachel. We actually met in college.
Oh, wow.
I tease, I'm married up in more than not like literally. She's 5'11" and I'm 5 none of your business, right?
But you also married up. I've seen Rachel, so you did. No offense.
Yeah. But not just physically, but she's amazing. She's a mom of 3 girls. We have 3 daughters. They're 14, 12, and 9. She homeschools them. She works 2 jobs. And she allows her husband, who she believes in what God's called him to do, just to travel and do ministry, and it's amazing. So yeah.
Well, tell me this. I know that you came about the ministry that you're doing, Broken Not Dead, Steventhen Holland, and I'll give you guys information on how you can reach Steventhen at the end of this broadcast or show, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what to call it. But Steventhen, tell us this: how did you come to who you are today? Tell the folks a little bit about testimony, if you can do that. I know it's a lot, but if you can condense it and kind of give the Reader's Digest the highlights of
Right.
who you are and how you got here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what I am, kind of professionally is I'm an author, I'm a speaker, motivational and national pro-life speaker, as well as a musician, singer, songwriter, worship leader. All of those things I think has just been how I got to this place. Has really been a life journey. I was telling you before we jumped on, I'll be 40 years old here in a couple of weeks, and it's just 40 years of life, just and also founder of Broken Not Dead, right? This nonprofit. And really all of it has just been, when I look back over 40 years, it's been my own brokenness. My mom actually just jumped online. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Joyce.
Are on the, but Joyce is actually my adopted mom. When I was 8 years old, I found out that a couple of kids at school said your skin color is different than the rest of your family. You're weird. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, wait, that's how you found out? That's how you found out you were adopted. Was your mom, were your adoptive parents going to tell you eventually?
They actually had told me before.
Okay.
With Joyce being on right now, she'll tell you. I actually told him when he was 5, but actually they wanted me to know before I went to school, because she knew that that there would probably be some things come up, and because we were in a very small community outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, a little country town. If you're from there, they say Wootwell, and I'm like, but it's really Whitwell.
Whoa. Wait, what?
Wootwell. It's
why?
I don't know. It's just you have to ask them, right?
Okay.
But
Whoa. I say that anyway. And I'm not from Chattanooga.
I know. It's but yeah, I come home and I'm like, hey, Mom, this is what they said, and they told me at 8 years old, when I could comprehend that, hey, listen, we brought you into our home when you were a 7-day-old child. You're on the same bottle you left the hospital with. They said that you were probably going to die. I was so weak I couldn't suck a bottle. But this family that wasn't my color, they weren't my blood. They saw me as their son the day I was placed in their arms, and they cared for me. They loved me. They took care of me. And what's kind of interesting, Vic, is at 6 months old, the state of Tennessee actually decided that because of my skin color being different, that they were going to remove me from the home. So
really,
yeah. So at 6 months old, there was a legal battle.
Wait a minute. You've been adopted by Joyce and your birth father, or your adopted father. At 6 months old, the state of Tennessee decided you don't belong with this family because they're white and you're mixed.
Correct. Now this is 1982. Just a little bit. It was a long time ago, 40 years ago. But I don't know. I still would say it's not right. But
no, absolutely.
But a little different times, But yeah, so this family, this white family in this little town of Whitwell said, you know what, this is our son. My dad was, he was a coal miner, rough around the edges, blue collar guy. He put a shotgun by the back door and said, you can try to take my son, but this is my son.
Wow.
And, you couldn't get away with that everywhere. But no, this literally a whole community came behind this family, this foster family, and rallied behind, had 100, more than 200 petition letters were written on behalf of the Hollands to keep me in the home. And so a year and a half battles.
Did this make the news and kind of things like that locally?
I don't think it made the news. Not to my knowledge, but this literally a community came behind this family to keep this baby in the home. And at age 2, they were able to do it. Legally, I became a Holland. So yeah. So
But let's talk now about how you even came to be. How long were your adoptive parents waiting for a child, and how did you become the child that was chosen for them? We know the Lord did it, but I want to know. Tell us about. Let me just say it like it is. Tell us about your conception and what happened with that.
Well, I didn't actually know how I was conceived at that time, so I'll fast forward and then come back, okay, Vic? So okay. I didn't actually find out that I was how I came to be until I was 27. So
Wow.
I found out I was adopted at age 8, and then it took till 27 years old. I actually tracked my birth mom down, and the reason I
Wait,
even
on your own you did this? You
yeah,
decided I want to find her.
right. So
What was that process like?
so at 8 years old, when my family told me I was adopted, they actually gave me 8 pages of typewriter paperwork. That's all they had from 1982 that had some information. It had my birth mom's name, Linda Sue Holt. So when I was 27, my wife and I had gone through 2 miscarriages. So we had gone through brokenness, right? We
Yeah.
talked about broken, not dead. That God used that brokenness in my life because as a dad, I was wondering, are we losing our babies because of my past, because of these things, this information that I don't have?
Right.
So God led me in my broken state. I was really heartbroken over losing 2 babies, almost depression, really. I was youth pastoring in Tampa, Florida at the time. And the Lord said, it's time. And I literally took those 8 pages of typewriter paperwork. I went on Google and I spent 3 days searching. And on day 3, I came across a website for this man named Steve Holt. He's a magician and ventriloquist in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And my birth name was Holt. So
Okay.
long story short, I'm meeting my birth uncle online at 27 years old. So then he tells me about a month later, I flew up there from Tampa to Spartanburg to meet him. And he told me that his baby sister, my mom, was mentally challenged, 18 years old. She was raped by 5 men. She carried me homeless, chose life for me. So how the adopted family came in was at the end of her pregnancy, 9 months pregnant, she was living in a cardboard box behind an old grocery store in a little town where the people that live there call it Wootwolf. So this family it's Paul and Joyce had 4 biological children. They had 2 boys and 2 girls, and they had a miscarriage, brokenness again, 2 years prior to getting me because and it was a surprise pregnancy. Their youngest child was like 13, and it was like, oops, we didn't plan for that. But they lost that baby. It was a boy, and they lost it at 22 weeks, I think.
Oh, wow.
So it literally just ripped the heart out of the entire family, and because they had gotten excited and they were, after the shock wore off. So God used that for that brokenness to open up their hearts to start foster parenting. So they had 4 biological children. They had 5 foster kids in the home. So that's 9 kids, but they were longing for one more baby boy that they lost. So, they get this call from human services that literally, hey, we had this 7-day-old baby dropped off. He's on the same bottle of formula they left the hospital with. He's probably going to die. Would you all take him? And they said yes.
And it's you.
And it's me.
So your biological mother is
Yeah.
raped by 5 men.
Yeah.
You're conceived. She's homeless, but she carries the pregnancy. She gives birth to you. In the meantime, while all this is going on, your adopted parents have just miscarried a son. They're praying. I'm sure it sounds like they're Christians and they're praying people. They're praying about what does this mean, God? I'm sure I can imagine Joyce is asking why. I can imagine as a mom losing a child, oh, why did this happen? And then they get a call about you, a baby that they're told isn't even going to survive.
Correct.
Well, you look pretty healthy to me today, Steventhen. I mean, you look real healthy.
A little bit too healthy, right?
So you are now at 27. You meet this uncle. A month later, he tells you about your conception.
Correct.
How did you handle that? How did you handle when your biological uncle is telling you your mom was raped? Because apparently if it's 5 different guys, we know what that's called.
Right.
You don't even know which one's your father?
Nope. I still don't know who my father is to this biological.
Will you ever be able to find that out, biological, with all the DNA stuff going around? Is that something you'd be able, or do you even care?
I don't care. I've had people ask. I mean, I've even had people like, well, don't you want justice for your mom? And I mean, trust me.
Because they've never gone to jail, Steventhen? They've never been caught?
No.
Wow.
No. I mean, they could be in prison. Who knows, right? I
Right,
don't know.
right.
Yeah. But not for
Let's hope they are.
but not for the rape of my mom. I I prayed about it. I've thought many times. My mom, she was institutionalized. My birth mom was institutionalized her entire adult life in the state of Georgia. She died on Thanksgiving night, 2020. She actually choked on a sandwich. It was really tough, for me to go through. But you asked me how I felt.
How
The
did you
question
feel
was
when your biological
right.
uncle is telling you that? Yeah.
You asked me how I felt, and I wept. I wept, and I still weep even at times. I mean, when I share my story nationally, every time I weep, because what she had to go through, I definitely would say is not fair. I don't wish
Right.
that on anybody. But I have changed my perspective. I used to say, well, I would trade places with her, but if I traded places with her, then I wouldn't be here. And I think God had a purpose for my life.
Right.
And I'm not selfish in that. I believe in a God that, he doesn't make junk and he doesn't make mistakes, I
Let
think
me
he,
ask you this, Steventhen. I'm a pro-life advocate. I've been working in pro-life for 27 years.
right,
I'm staunchly pro-life, but I'm not one who judges or condemns those who choose abortion. I chose, myself. So,
right,
but my question to you would be, how do you feel when because we hear from the pro-choice side, well, a woman that's raped should be able to have an abortion. A woman who she's not going to want to look at that baby every day and be reminded of what happened to her. You are literal, tangible evidence of of a woman who was raped who chose life. Number one, she's a hero for doing that. I can't imagine what that must have been like for her, being mentally handicapped and home. I mean, everything was against her to have you, yet here you are. So you're right when you say God had a purpose for your life, he's taken what the enemy meant for evil and turned it into good from what I know of you. But what does that do to you when you hear people say, get rid of them if you've been raped? You don't want to have this child since you've been raped, which we know is less than the percentages are less than 1% that a woman becomes pregnant through rape, which, by the way, that's horrific.
right.
That is a horrific thing to happen. But I'm a believer that the child shouldn't die for the sins of the father. And I'm also a believer that the trauma compounds the woman after the rape and then an abortion on top of it. So, but tell me about that. Tell us about how that makes you feel, because I know you've heard it.
Yeah, I've definitely heard it. I actually had a conversation. I was waiting for a rental car in Texas, actually, and there was a guy that was actually home from the military, he was stationed in Germany, and we just had a conversation about pro life. He asked me what I did, and I told him I speak nationally for pro life, and his stance was pro choice. That I don't think we should take the choice away from a woman and those type of things. And I mean, that was after I told him my story. And so I looked at him and I
Okay,
said,
after you tell him how you're conceived, he's basically looking at you saying, well, your mom should have been able to kill you.
right, exactly. So, I mean,
Wow.
I think to answer your question, I mean, I could have gotten mad and could have gotten frustrated, but he hasn't walked my shoes. He doesn't
Right.
live my life.
And he's
And
speaking out of ignorance. Let's be
yeah,
honest.
absolutely.
I
And
feel sorry for people like that.
exactly. And the way I look at it is, you kind of faced with the option of, so you're telling me my life didn't matter, like that the circumstances and the lack of resources and all that stuff should justify me being killed, and I look at you and say, I have a wonderful wife. I have 3 beautiful daughters. They get to worship with me. They get to worship God. There's people's lives that I get to touch almost daily. Um, that just couldn't find healing, couldn't find worth, couldn't find value. It's hard to find it, and I get to speak truth into that because I say it like this: my crap's become my fertilizer.
Oh, I
Uh,
love that.
so
You need to put that on a t-shirt.
I already have it, so
Oh,
I can tell you where to get it later. I got stickers,
because
but
that's awesome. My crap, and I think you said that to me a year
yeah,
ago. I don't remember,
yeah.
a while back, and I remember thinking, what? My crap is my fertilizer. That is so
Well,
good.
it is
Yeah,
true.
that
It's
is so
true.
good.
Like none of us like to walk through the messiness of life and the stinkiness of life. And
Yeah.
but if you, the perspective is like, I've gone through that, I've made it through, and I'm stronger for it. My roots have grown deep, and I produce fruit out of that fertilizer.
Jesus never said it'd be easy. I mean, he's never
Right,
said it would be an easy road. He just said he'd never leave us nor forsake us. And I think people do get caught up in this. Why is life so hard? If God was real, if Jesus was real, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Because there's sin in the world, sir.
right,
That's why
absolutely,
this happens. Because we each have free will. We're not robots.
right.
That's why things happen.
But I,
And if we made our children love us, then where's the joy in that? So God doesn't do the same thing. He doesn't make
right.
us do anything.
Well, and I think it's all about perspective, right? Um, and I think that's, for me, I look at it as, I said, I think, there's different speakers and different angles, like with pro-life. And I feel like, like one of my purposes I see that God's put me on this planet for is I have to share my story,
Mhm.
because like you said, you could check every single box to why I shouldn't be here and to justify abortion. But when I look at my life, I know God had a plan for my life, and I think some of it is to challenge people's thoughts, perspective. And I told that young man as I was talking to him, I was like, look, I'm not trying to fight with you. I'm not trying to argue with you. I mean, I have my opinion, you have yours, but I will tell you this, that the circumstances of my life, or my mom's life, um, I'm thankful it didn't justify taking my life,
Mhm.
because I wouldn't be standing here having this conversation with you, sir, if she would have ended my life.
It's unbelievable to me. I don't know how, but it happens every day that
Yeah.
people stand in front of someone like you or someone with a disability, and they could actually say to that person, "You shouldn't be here," or "Your mom should have had a right to." I don't want to take the
Well,
right away from her to. That's like, how do you look at someone and say your life doesn't matter?
well, and I think in this, honestly, it comes back to really my heart's cry, with my ministry and everything. It's like that gentleman, that conversation, he didn't see worth in the baby.
Mhm.
So you're never going to win that conversation. I mean, that conversation
Yeah.
is going to, it's just, you're going to spin,
Yeah.
because I saw worth in the child and the woman, where he saw worth and value only in the woman because he didn't
Right.
see the baby as viable, you know.
You're right.
It-
We don't value life in this country.
right,
Let's face it. We really
right,
don't. We've turned into this fast food mentality. We want it now. We want it now. We want what we want now, and we're trying to convince people of lies. I've had two women, just two, in my 27-year career, Steventhen, who were raped and became pregnant. They both came to me for counseling and to share. One of them had chosen abortion, and she was destroyed. And she looked at me and said, when I realized after the abortion that that baby was not just my rapist baby, it was my baby,
mhm,
I realized the mistake I'd made, and I have had to live with that. But everyone was there telling me, as I said earlier, you don't need to deal with this. You've been through too much. This will be a constant reminder, without her realizing, but this is my baby too. The
right,
second woman who had been raped and gotten pregnant placed her son up for adoption. And she said, I have never, ever regretted giving life to that child and placing him for adoption. Never. I don't have to live with the fact of taking his life too. My life was almost destroyed, she said, but she went through counseling and she got the help she needed because, as I said, rape is horrific and rapists should be punished to the fullest extent of the law.
right.
But that child is an innocent product, an innocent human being that came from this act of violence, and they shouldn't pay for those sins, as I said.
I
Stephen,
agree.
then tell us about, because we don't have a whole lot of time left. I want people to know about your ministry and what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, so obviously you probably caught a theme. I've mentioned brokenness a lot, but in my life, I've just realized that how powerful brokenness is. So like for me, I have, with Steventhen, I'm a speaker, I'm a musician, all those things. And really I have a broken, not dead story. But what I've realized is, as I've met people across the country and, in my life, that we need to create a platform for these people to share their broken not dead stories. So Broken Not Dead Ministries, I founded in 2018, really does just that. Our two main platforms are, we host events. So we do Broken Not Dead events. I actually have one coming up here on Monday called 321 Fest, and it's in conjunction with World Down Syndrome Day. And, you think about broken people, people that, get looked down on, or they see like they're less than.
Who are being threatened right now.
Absolutely. And they're
Throughout
precious.
the world.
Right.
The world.
Yeah. And they're precious. And I mean, just, life, the world wouldn't be the same without, and it's not just Down syndrome, but special needs in general, and just the joy that they bring. And they need to be included in our society, with jobs and, just all that. So it's an educational event, but it's also encouraging. And so we're loving on special needs families. So we host events. And then something I'm really excited about, and Vic, you got to come share your story on it, but we call it Broken Not Dead Stories, B&D stories. So we actually film people's testimonies. The word says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. So we give people a platform to share their stories. We produce it really well. We put it on our YouTube channel and share it on social media. And again, but the whole mission of all that is just to bring hope and restoration to broken people. And then we try to get creative on how we do that. And I would say that this whole ministry really came out of, what I've been talking about, is I've realized in my life that brokenness is not a death sentence. It's not the end. Brokenness can be powerful if we let the Lord take it and use it. And if we can just change our perspective. And I guess, for anybody listening that you're dealing with brokenness, through the process, your faith is fortified and then your vision becomes clear. But sometimes we have to go through the process, and I want to encourage you, just keep moving, just keep walking, go through the process. And then when you look back and you see, God, man, how did I even get through that? Well, there was a purpose maybe for the pain that we didn't even realize until we went through
it. There is a purpose in the pain. And I think that we all need to realize that someone else can benefit from our pain. And I've said many times throughout my, I have 4 daughters, and they're all married now. And I've always said, and I know they have made better choices because of some of the bad choices I've made in my life that they've been privy to, that I've either confessed to them or they've seen it. And I'm very thankful that they learned from those mistakes, or for me being honest with them about my pain, as well as others. But the most important for each of us should be our families first. But I think that that's what we have to do when we share what we go through, when we share that where we've been. Someone else could just be about to walk through that same thing. And when they see us, that we came out of something even worse than what they think they're in, that gives hope. And it brings hope to those. I put your website, Steventhen.com, for anybody that wants to get in touch with you, Steventhen. And you guys can find him there at Steventhen.com. And I hope that you will, because I just think he's one of the coolest guys. We're going to be speaking together at an event.
In Fargo,
North Dakota. And Steventhen, my daughter Tawny, and I are both going to be there together speaking. So I'm looking forward to sharing a platform with you, brother. I love what you're doing. And in closing, why don't you tell us about that moment when you met your birth mother? And you can see that as well online. You can see the whole thing. It was videotaped. Before Steventhen was ever a speaker, it was videotaped. But tell us about, let's end with that beautiful story.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I met my mom at 27 years old, and we had made plans to meet her because she's an 11-year-old mental mind, and she was 46 when I met her. So she's a child, mentally. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know how she'd react. And she was in kind of a nursing home facility. They had a commons area. My uncle decided he was going to do a magic show to kind of lighten the mood. And then we were going to go to a private room, to her room, and do the introduction. But God just took over. And and I go up and start singing Amazing Grace. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful meet, that I got to meet my mom. And I'm not going to give it away. You can go on YouTube and watch that. But But when you see that video and she looks at me and she says, I love you. And I would have never given you up if I could have kept you. And then I think the most beautiful thing to me, though, is there's a moment in that video where she says, I love Jesus. And even though my mom has passed, I know where she is. And that's the hope that we have, that when she's whole and complete now, and one day I get to put my arms around her in heaven and we get to rejoice together. So,
Steventhen, thank you so much for being here. I
you're welcome.
appreciate you so much. As I told you guys, you can find Steventhen at, I'm going to put it back up again right now, steventhen.com. Make sure that you go check out what he's doing, where he's going to be, where he's speaking. He's a great guy with a humble heart. So thank you so much for being here. So that was this week's episode of What's on My Mind. And what was on my mind is about life. I mean, that's one of the things that I am so passionate about, as most of you know, if you know anything about me. And what a great testimony of showing the truth about tangible evidence of a real person, which we know at conception, Steventhen was a real person. No matter how he was conceived, he was still a child of God, made in the image of God, and look what God has done in his life. So that's what's on my mind this week. I'm looking forward to next week's show. I think you're going to be real surprised about who my guest is. So I hope to see you again next week. Hope you have a great night. Thanks for watching. I'm Victoria Robinson. I'll see you next time.